Breaking news! The US government shutdown is over. And guess what? Nothing changed. Federal workers get a paycheck again, politicians pat themselves on the back, and meanwhile, they spent $619 billion while the government was closed. How do you spend more money when you're shut down? Well, if this is what off looks like, maybe we should never turn the machine back on. But hey, historically, every time this circus ends, Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. Strap in, because today we got a full 5-course meal of macro madness, Bitcoin bullishness, and straight-up American clown show. Yeah, like I said, strap the hell in, because it's time to snooze.
So with all of that, I just want to tell you the country has never been in better shape. We went through this short-term disaster with the Democrats because they thought it would be good politically. And it's an honor now to sign this incredible bill and get our country working again. Thank you.
All right, let's start with the insanity. Shutdown ends after 43 days, the longest in U.S. history. During this time, they borrowed $619 billion, burned $14.4 billion per day, increased the national debt to $38.126 trillion, and in Bitcoin terms, the U.S. debt grew by 18.5 million BTC. Let me repeat that. While the government was shut down, they basically printed an entire Bitcoin market cap while the government was closed. This is not a government. This is a flaming debt pinata filled with IOUs, and everyone's swinging at it blindfolded. Oh, and speaking of flying blind, remember those important data releases? The stuff the Fed claims it uses to guide the entire global financial system? Yeah, well, allegedly, the Democrats damaged the federal statistical system. We're not getting CPI. We're not getting jobs numbers.
Shutdown could end up decreasing fourth quarter economic growth by 2 whole percentage points. The Democrat shutdown made it extraordinarily difficult for economists, investors, and policymakers at the Federal Reserve to receive critical government data. The Democrats may have permanently damaged the federal statistical system, with October CPI and jobs reports likely never being released. And all of that economic data released will be permanently impaired, leaving our policymakers at the Fed flying blind at a critical period.
And the White House literally said with a straight face, the October jobs report will be released without an unemployment rate. What does that even mean? That's like releasing a weather report with no temperature. Yeah, it's weathering outside. Could be cold, could be hot, could be a apocalypse, who knows? The Fed is now officially flying blind. Perfect time to print the world's reserve currency to oblivion, if you ask me. And it looks like they are, because this is the new American economy. 15-year car loans, 50-year mortgages, $2,000 stimmies, Treasury buying back its own debt, 129 global rate cuts, the fastest since 2020. We are stimulating into a bubble. They are literally pouring gasoline onto a burning building and calling it inflation reduction. I hope you can smell the money burner, because Bessent just dropped the bomb. And he confirmed 2 new stimulus programs are incoming.
That's the most financially responsible thing to do?
Well, there are a lot of options here. The president's talking about a $2,000 rebate, and that would be for families making less than, say, $100,000.
Have you decided on that yet?
We haven't. We haven't. It's in discussion. But the other thing to think about, Brian, is that what we did with the tax bill is actually financing the president's no tax and tips over time. So security and the big refunds you're going to see are a result of that. So that's another payment to the American people. And then the other thing you're going to see in the middle of the year are these Trump accounts, every child born retroactively to January 1, but for the next 3 years, is going to get a $1,000 account that's going to be invested in the U.S. stock market. So that's another $1,000 for working families.
So yesterday,
Let's start with the first one. $2,000 rebates, cash in hand for anyone under 100K, which means liquidity boost, risk assets pump, and Bitcoin follows. Then the second one, Trump baby accounts. Babies born from 2025 to 2028 get $1,000 automatically invested into U.S. stocks. We are literally turning newborns into forced equity investors. The maternity ward is now Wall Street. That's fiscal easing. That's liquidity. And liquidity always finds Bitcoin. All the YouTube TA guys doing their witchcraft screaming the top is in. Bear market starts now. Meanwhile, Rational Root just dropped a nuke. The Bitcoin bull cycle historically follows the global business cycle. And guess what? The business cycle hasn't even started yet. Meaning, the real bull run, the face-melting, life-changing, neighbor asking you how to buy Bitcoin phase hasn't even begun.
Bitcoin obviously came forward out of the 2008 financial crisis. And since then, we've kind of had this 4-year cycle period in that PMI metric. But currently, we're actually not respecting that 4-year period. And so we've moved up a lot slower in terms of like the business cycle. And so is Bitcoin, and so is the stock market. And so macro analysts, and here I'm actually referring to Raoul Pal, which I'm not a fan of him because he did a lot of shitcoining in the beginning, like a bit unethical behavior he showed, but he has actually quite a good reasoning, which I think with regards to Bitcoin being part of the business cycle. I agree. I've always agreed on this. So the halvings were always a contribution. There's many factors, but the business cycle and global liquidity in general, which Bitcoin has like a rough correlation to, which is actually not respecting currently because global liquidity is moving up, but Bitcoin is actually moving down. So we're having this bit of like a moment within Bitcoin itself. But the ISM, so the business cycle is actually not reached high levels yet. We're not even above 50. So the macro analysts in general, they still expect this to start moving up to those higher levels. And so that would mean actually also more favorable conditions for Bitcoin, which could mean like a continuation of the bull market. So all this to get to so Bitcoin came forward out of the 2008 financial crisis. We kind of naturally went into that 4-year cycle, which was the business cycle as well. But if we look further, for example, if we look at the .com crash to the 2008 market, we had actually an 8-year cycle, and so it looks now also the cycle structure is changing. So we just had like 4-year cycles in the business cycle, but now with the business cycle, we're also lengthening. At least that's what it starts to look like, and so it's very likely that Bitcoin might move with this. And so therefore, I think there's a big increase in probability that Bitcoin will still continue its bull market further down the road. Even though we have a correction now, this healthy distribution or IPO phase that we're in, call it an IPO phase, I still think there's like more continuation of that bull market. And we probably continue a bit of like that gradual channel. Obviously, we now broke that 3-year structure, which I just showed. So maybe we'll move into like an even slower structure, a new channel. But looking at the macro, unless we get like a recession, like in the next weeks or months, it looks more likely that the cycle will extend. And so I think the impact of macro is actually more important, especially since institutions came in. And so that is something to keep in mind.
Now let's rapid fire some bullish news, shall we? Bitcoin ETFs pulled in $524 million in one day. Largest inflow since the crash. BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK, they're all loading up. JP Morgan increased its IBIT holdings by 68%. Yeah, Jamie Dimon, the tapeworm, the guy that once called Bitcoin a fraud, now they're holding 343 million of it. Russia officially calls Bitcoin a top-yielding investment. Taiwan is debating a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And this is crazy. Boom! The Czech National Bank just bought Bitcoin. This could be a historic first for any central bank and likely more central banks will follow. Bitcoin is becoming global monetary infrastructure, and that's not something you trade. That's something you secure. We get a lot more bullishness coming your way. What does history say about Bitcoin following a government shutdown? And if Jay Powell is going to print so much money it makes our eyes bleed, well, we'll see what Jack Mallers thinks is coming next. But before we do, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Let's take a quick second for our sponsors who keep this show on the air over at the Bitcoin Way. If your wealth lives in their system, it's not yours, it's theirs. That's why we scream Bitcoin. That's why you self-custody. And that's why you call our friends over at the Bitcoin Way. They'll walk you through multi-sig, self-custody, privacy, how to run a node, and the tools that keep you sovereign when the fiat system pulls the plug. Don't wait till it's too late. Book a free 30-minute consult today using that link in the show notes. Need cash but don't want to sell your Bitcoin? Ledn is the global leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, issuing over $9 billion in loans since 2018, and they were the first to offer proof of reserves. With Ledn, you get custody loans, no credit checks, no monthly payments, and more. Visit learn.ledn.io/simply to learn more and get 25 basis points off your first loan. In 2018 and 2019, following a government shutdown, Bitcoin pumped 96% and 157%. And right now, we're over 100K and we just survived the largest liquidation event ever, the longest shutdown ever, OG capitulation, Bitcoin Twitter panic, ETF outflows, and still, Bitcoin held the 50-week moving average. And every time this cycle that we bounced off this line, Bitcoin rallied $40,000 plus in the following months. Every single time. Global M2, global liquidity, is exploding, breaking all-time highs. And Bitcoin is 80 days behind the liquidity curve. Historically, when M2 spikes, 2013, Bitcoin did like 100x. 2017, Bitcoin 20x'd. And in 2020, Bitcoin 4x'd. Bitcoin is a monetary pressure valve on global liquidity. And liquidity is screaming. The Fed has no choice. Liquidity stress is everywhere. The private market can't provide liquidity anymore. It's all on the Fed. SLR rules killed the repo market. Volcker rule killed prop trading. And money market reforms killed private lending. And Powell straight up said in 2021, in a stress scenario today, the Federal Reserve is the only entity with a balance sheet to absorb the shock. Translation, if anything breaks, even just a little, QE is back! And as Jack Mallers said, if they're printing, Bitcoin's going higher. Send it!
The US government has no choice. Guys, I know Bitcoin 4-year cycles. I know all the chart bros on Twitter say that technically in October 17th at 472, the bull market ended because the stars aligned. Guess what? I don't give a f***. I'm looking at the chessboard and I'm seeing there's only one move my opponent can make. They have to print money. They don't have a choice. 2026 has to structurally be a massive year. There's no more reserves in the banking system. There's no more reserves in the banking system because all of them are going to financing the US government. This system fails on its face if you do not keep printing money.
President Trump's reviving talks of stimulus checks.
So the US government is getting back to what it does best, and that's print the money. That's what they do best. That's why they're all elected, is to hand out quote unquote free to the people. I'm supposed to be bearish? Oh, you guys got the wrong guy.
Shutdown is over. Liquidity is back. Stimulus is coming. Global central banks are cutting. ETFs are buying. Central banks are buying. Bitcoin is holding the line, and liquidity is screaming for a new all-time high. So yes, government shutdown over. New Bitcoin all-time high incoming? Hell yeah! Stack sats, stay humble, and for the love of God, get your Bitcoin off of exchanges. The next run is gonna be historic. And let us know what you think below, and I hope you guys like this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pat by sharing the Sound Money Gospel with some poor soul saving in fiat. And set those notifications, Dante, Sophie, Oceans. They all got great stuff coming your way, so stay tuned, and I'll catch you all next time. Love you guys. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.